Having a good afternoon or evening or morning, wherever you might be. I'm coming to you live from beautiful Saigon in Vietnam. Also, Ho Chi Minh City. Saigon and Ho Chi Minh City are the same cities. Okay, so let's begin, scholars. We will continue with the first paragraph. Let me give a proper introduction. Welcome to the free astrotheology course. I'm Dr. Yasapa from Zion Law School. Our textbook, the major textbook that we're using is the Astrology of the Old Testament, or the Lost Word Revealed. The Lost Word Revealed. And that has significance, y'all. The Lost Word Revealed. So I think I finished the prefix of this book. I'm going to come back to our supplemental textbooks and do those I think one has a prefix. I'm going to do this separately because it's long. So the Gospel and the Stars. I'm not sure if we're going to get into this today. I didn't see an opportunity for it when I reviewed. But anyway, this is our supplementary. The Gospel and the Stars by Joseph A. Seiss. I'll do my best to put a link in the description area of the video. I don't know if I have enough space to do it, but if I don't put it in the description area, the link will be in the community part. I'll put it in a post, okay? And the next book, I can say thank you to Darrell-El for recommending this book. So thank you, Darrell-El. This is E.W. Bullinger's The Witness of the Stars. All right, The Witness of the Stars. So for all of you religious fanatics, whatever your religious tradition might be, as you can see, well, it might not be evident to you, but both The Witness of the Stars is pro-Christianity, okay, pro-Christianity, pro-religion, as is the Gospel and the Stars, all right? Both of these are pro-Christianity, and our main textbook, the Astrology of the Old Testament, is pro-God, pro-external deity, whatever you might call that external deity, okay? So, y'all ain't got nothing to be scared of. All right? So let's get into chapter 1. Oh, by the way, you know what? Which book is this in? I want to bring something to your attention, scholars. In the prefix, Roman numeral 4. So take a look at this, okay? I'm not going to go into it. I'm going to put it on the record. In this work, in this book, will be explained how to read and judge accurately anyone's nativity. That's their nativity chart, their birth chart. So we're going to learn how to do that. Now remember, this book is pro-belief in God, pro-belief in the God of the Bible, the Jewish and the Christian God, okay? To calculate all manner of questions. So the author is going to present his rationale based upon scripture to prove, at least in his own mind, maybe yours too, that all manner of questions can be answered from the stars. From the stars. Now, I'm going to say at the outset, I do not worship any external deities at all. Okay? None whatsoever. To calculate all manner of questions, to diagnose disease. How about that, y'all? You religious people. So he's going to show his evidence, his scriptures, to show that you can use, let's give it a name, astromedicine. Okay, astromedicine. I don't know if that's a real term, but astromedicine. And there's actually, from an energetic point of view, I can see that. I can see why that is. To tell a person of the composition of his business, to know what best to pursue, and where best to seek either wealth, health, or fortune. Y'all know where this is really evident and obvious. When I lived in India for those few, I think it was 4 or 5 months that that I was in India. This is common. It's gotten a black eye because there's a lot of charlatans, a lot of people trying to pull in fiat, and doing all kind of lower self type of behaviors. But even still, it's prominent. When I say India, I mean Hindustan, Sindha. I forgot the name of it. I met, of course, a lot of people and talked about the history of India. The curious thing is that none of them mention that India and Ethiopia are one nation. A few of them were able to talk about India being a part of the Moorish Empire, but according to them, the Moors had conquered them. Okay, at least that's what they were taught in school. Anyway, let's continue. So it says here, the mystery of the good path and the ways of the evil. Obviously, that's talking about the Mazarah. One of the prophets talks about, I told my people, the Most High says, I told my people to return to the old path, and they said, we will not. So the mystery of the old path. So we have the Mazarah, the Zoad. So the kingdom of the heavens, this is those 7 months of the year, those 7 zodiac signs that are dominated by the sun. Of course, sun is light, and light means intellect, knowing. Okay, knowing. And you can even say wisdom and knowledge, right? Because with the light's on, you can see, right? You can see. If you got common sense, you know what you're looking at. Of course, if your eyes and ears are coupled to your mind. If you're under the curse that Jesus, the historical Christ figure, put on you, then your eyes are uncoupled from your mind. And even though something is in front of you, for example, like let's say there's a Black Panther in front of you, you might see a little pretty cat. You might see a little pretty cat. Okay, because the Gospels are meant to disarm you, make you see things that are not there, and make you defenseless. Okay, and also ears that are uncoupled from your mind, so that although you see, you don't perceive, you cannot ever perceive. And although you have ears to hear, let me repeat that. Although you have eyes to see, you cannot perceive what's in front of you. You can even apply that to language when you read something. Okay, why? So it's connotative linguistics. Everybody see that? Connotative linguistics. So yes, you see the page, you see the letters or pictographs, hieroglyph, whatever you want to call it, you see it, but you don't understand it. Even you pronounce the words, even you have some dictionary definitions in your brain, but these are not the etymological definitions, and they just made up whatever grammar rules that they chose to make up to get their point across, right? So, and then ears to hear, right? You got ears to hear, but you can never understand. This is the curse that the historical Jesus Christ figure put on you. If y'all don't know what I'm talking about, Google search it, go watch the whole library, 136, 137 videos that I did on the Devil's Pulpit and Ptolemy's Tetrabiblios. I just completed that. It's probably more like there's 136 or so videos, but there's probably close to 300 hours, I would think. If we look at each video being, let's say, 1.5 hours, and I think most of them, I don't know, maybe 80, 90% or more than that. So just double it. But there's a lot there. But anyway, let's keep going. So the mystery of the good path and ways of evil. So from March 21, 22, which is the vernal equinox, the spring equinox, kingdom of heaven. This is Aries, right? When you look at it anatomically, this is the executive function of your brain, right? Etc. So thought and decision making, etc. So from March 21, 22, the spring equinox, 12 hours of daylight, 12 hours of night. The sun dominates. We go to the summer solstice, June 21, 22. Okay, this is when the sun reaches its highest point. This is at the meridian. You know, I think I'm gonna get some props. If y'all want to donate, you know, I can use whatever finance you send to have some props made so I can show it. It'll be more effective than what I'm having to do now. But anyway, it is what it is. So summer solstice, the sun reaches its highest point at the northern part of the space. And now the sun sun, what is also the son sun, so the what and who. How about that? So an object and a man. So the sun sun is the son sun at the summer solstice. I'm sorry, all the time, but at the summer solstice, the sun sun becomes the Christ, takes on the title, the Christ, the appellation, the Christ. So when the man, that would be a man with a womb or a man without a womb, reaches his higher self through the process of alchemy, achieves his higher self, then that man becomes the Christ. Okay? So now, the sun, of course, there's more than 12 hours of sunlight on June 21, 22. But the sun is beginning to fall. It's reached full maturity. Let me do like this is easier. So we go from the summer solstice. The sun is falling. The man has reached full maturity and he's aging now. Right? So now we come to the position of the sun at approximately September 21, 22. And this is the autumn or fall equinox. So do you see from the summer solstice, the elevation of the sun begins to fall. The sun is falling southward until it gets to, of course, the autumn or fall equinox. So this whole arc, this is the royal arc, this is the kingdom of the heavens, is dominated by the sun. So this is the good path that the author speaks about. This is the good path. This is the illuminated starry heaven. All right? I don't like the way that looks. Let me not do that. And then, of course, the evil, as the author writes it here, the ways of evil. So that's below the autumn equinox. All right? So all of those wintry months, so October through March, one day before, well, the day of the transition, that's better. The day that winter transitions to spring. Okay, so those are the earthy days, or that's the earthy area, that's hell. And then, of course, December 21, 22 is the winter solstice, and that's hell when the S-O-N sun, the S-U-N sun, reaches its lowest point in the southern part of space. Okay, so hell is so cold that it's burning hot. Okay, it's so cold that it's burning hot. Right? That's what's meant by that. And it's the bottomless pit because space is supposed to have no bottom. Okay, y'all? So this is what the author is talking about. So this book is going to explain the mysteries of the kingdom of heavens. Well, that's what Jesus told the youth. When Jesus told the youth, come to my house at 7 in the evening or so, with nothing but a jockstrap on, and I'm explaining to you the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven in the secret book of Mark. Y'all can go reference that in the Gospel and the Zodiac, or just get the secret book of Mark and start reading it until you find it. Okay, y'all? And of course, the priesthood took that out. They took that out of the New Testament because it smells bad, right? Smells of homosexuality and pedophilia. So now it continues. We're on prefix page 4. It continues. So this book will also teach you about the science of the Great Pyramid. How about that? So I came out of a religious tradition that was founded on pyramidology. I didn't realize it at the time. I didn't realize it until I left. But the founder of that religion, and that there's a whole bunch of dirty laundry that goes with that religion, right? But he was deeply into pyramidology, right? And the astrology of the ancients is the base of all and every science. Well, I would agree with that, and it's harmonic with the Hermetic Laws, the 7 Hermetic Laws. You see it clearly, or you see them rather. Now he continues, either past or future, and that it was at one time a universal religion. Now, I don't know if the author here is talking about religion as in a belief system or a religion as in a drawing back to nature, drawing back and being anchored in nature. I don't know how he's talking. I don't know what he means. But was this information universally known? Absolutely. It wasn't forgotten. Well, actually, it wasn't even forgotten. It was wiped out of the minds of the common people through warfare, through hot warfare. Okay? Through hot warfare. And those verses that you see in the New Testament that we have been taught are metaphors for war, like take up the complete suit of armor and your breastplate and all of this stuff. That was literal at the time. And it wasn't until after they completely physically conquered us that they changed it, because it was no longer required and it was brute, right? So they wanted people to think that all of this is love and, mercy, and so they just said, okay, it's a metaphor. All right, and then they created their doctrine to make it a metaphor. And because nobody knew that they were dealing with criminals, gangsters, liars, people who practice black magic, people just accepted it, right? Because they gave full faith and credit to these priests. All right, yo? And of course, our people, well, look at the condition we were in. We had no choice, right? We had no choice. It was beat into us in many cases, more often than not. And we didn't accept it because of some sincere religious epiphany. No, it was through warfare, through violence, through terrorism. Okay, literally. And these mosquitoes are eating me up. Okay, so it was a universal religion and science. Now, he has here science and universal. Isn't that interesting? Universal religion, Catholicism has taken that concept or that notion as being the universal religion, the universal church. Y'all see how they just robbed that from us, and then put a negative meaning on it. Universal religion, Catholicism. Y'all see that? So it is a science, a predictive science, right? And language. Now, I like that part. I like that part because you have to learn the terminology. Okay? The rules associated with astronomy. Now, y'all should know our ancestors recognized 10 constellations. 10, not 12. And 48, 10 zodiac signs. And only a total of 48 constellations. Modern astrologists, they have 12 zodiac signs and I think 80 something constellations, and they even change the icons. Each zodiac sign's icon, they change some of them. Okay, so in my opinion, I'm giving you my opinion. In my opinion, our task is to go back as far as we can in history, flush everything out. And if our ancestors said there are 10 zodiac signs, then we go with there are 10. If they said it's 48 zodiac signs and we can confirm that, then it's 48. Which means, y'all, as far as, I can see, we, not me, we have to learn how to do all of this math and calculations ourselves. Cannot rely on computer, on the astrological charts that you find, or apps rather, that you find online. Now that's my opinion. At this point in time, that's my opinion. Why? Because that's our heritage. That's our heritage. And I don't see how, let's say, a modern astrologer can have more. I don't care what kind of equipment they have. It's inferior to the technology or to the consciousness that our ancient ancestors had. Doesn't even come close. Okay? For example, here's how you can test it. Ask any modern scientist or engineer how to build a megalithic structure. Ask them where is the equipment that can hoist a 50 ton object several hundred feet in the air. Ask them how it's done. Okay, ask them how did we even find all of this information out to begin with. They don't have any answers. But that's my reasoning at this moment in time. Okay? But it's important, for me it's important, right? Because the scripture says, honor your ancient foremothers and forefathers, so that it may go well with you on the land that I am giving you. Okay, in other words, one of the rules, the requirements rather, of being a heir, being able to be an heir and have possession, use of your of the estate, is that you follow that rule. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, yes. But also the science, also the language, right? Also the language, all of it. Culture, the heritage, that would include the science. I would even go as far as the food if we could figure it out. But for sure we know it's natural foods, right? Nobody needs to convince you that even if you have chronic illnesses, in many cases, just a natural food diet will resolve it. Okay? So this is getting into the area of what? Herbs. That's all I'm saying. Herbs, minerals. So he continues, the remnants, listen y'all, the remnants of the sign language, he's talking about astrology being sign language, signs. Not with the hands. I don't think he means sign language with the hands. I think he's talking about reading the signs, the positions of the heavenly bodies, and how we note them, how to do the calculations, etc. The remnants of, or in other words, the remnants, what's left of the science of astrology that's been preserved, is still held by Masonic bodies. So these secret societies, these Freemasons, they still have this science. Notice what it says. To whom it as, quote unquote, the astrological sciences are shining in the darkness. So they're dark, right? Lower self. I'm talking about the ones who choose to use it. This is talking about the ones who choose to use that science in a negative way, right? Which happens to be the ones we know about. Okay? To whom it as, quote unquote, shining in the darkness, and the darkness comprehending it not. So what does this mean? So these dark, black magic practicing Freemasons. Doesn't have a full comprehension of these astrological sciences. And in fact, if they did, they wouldn't use it for negative intentions. Okay, so anyway, I wanted to cover that. And prefix 5. Listen to this. The entire work will be devoted to the elucidation of astrology as practiced by the ancient people. Now, I like that. The astrology practiced by the ancient people, not the modern astrologers. So this book was written in 1892. So that's why I'm attracted to this book. Astrology as practiced by the ancient people. So are he talking about the Chaldeans, our ancestors, the Chaldeans, the Egyptians, or the Kemetans, etc., y'all? Of course. And then he says here, explain, quote unquote, the mystery of the serpent. Okay, so he's talking about, not limited to, of course, but the serpent in the Garden of Eden. Okay, so as to enable one, if so desired, to do as the teacher did when ascertaining if a woman should be a judge guilty by the Pharisees. In other words, he's saying that Jesus, the Christ figure, in order to figure out what was going on with this woman, used astrology. Okay, used astrology. Now here's another point for a review of the prefix. And I think this is extremely important for us as a nation, as an empire. Moreover, this book will show that geometry, geo meaning earth, metry meaning measurement, or geometrical shapes, right? Geometrical shapes, shapes found in nature. Moreover, it will show that geometry is the most perfect of all sciences and the grandest of all studies. And that until one understands geometry, he or she can never become a good mathematician. Why is this important? Well, we need to do mathematical calculations to calculate the angles, etc., of the heavenly bodies, right? Birth charts and everything. But not only that, in order to build, it's time for us as a people to start building. Stop teaching so much, right? Definitely stop debating, but start building, right? Start building, okay? Teach mathematics, geometry, engineering, geometry, engineering, so that we can start building. That's the important thing, building. Now, geometry, as the author says, in this work will be explained how to read and judge accurately one's nativity, one's birth chart. Okay? To calculate all manner of questions, to diagnose disease, and to tell a person the composition of his business. Y'all see that? Building, structures, technology, products, etc. And we can use astrology. Okay? We can do it using astrology. That's the whole purpose of it. Right? That's the whole purpose. So I wanted to make these connections and put this out here. Y'all give me some feedback. I'm open for feedback. And You know, we need to start building, right? Building can be in any industry. It doesn't just have to be structures, houses, and building. It doesn't have to be that. Like I said, it can be products. It can be technologies that we create. Okay, now the technology comes from what? From science. So science, you find science in books. The place where we find science is in books and magazines, journals. When you lift the science off the page and you actually create something using that science, that's a technology. That's a technology. It can be digital, a digital technology, or it can be physical. Okay? So this is where we have to, in my opinion, this is where we need to be going. All right? Producers, builders. And then that also separates us even further from this Negro, Black, African American, Latino, whatever brand that they're calling you in whatever part of the world that you're in. It separates you from that. All right? It separates you from that and anchors you in the minds of other people more clearly to your nationality, to your heritage. But anyway, let's so I'm finished with that. Let's go to chapter 1. I want to get a cup of coffee, y'all. Hold on. Give me 1 second. Ooh, these mosquitoes are eating me up. Hold on. Okay, y'all, so we're on chapter 1, Astrology of the Old Testament. I'm actually excited about this. There's some good stuff. There's some real good stuff in here that I can't wait to get to. Y'all might think it's little things. But for me, it's strange because it seems like the things that I like and I enjoy and that I think are exciting, other people not interested in. Like when I'm teaching 506 the Curses course, right? Stuff that I'm excited in, I want to spend a lot of time on. And, sometimes the students, I think they think it's dry or I'm taking too much time on it. Yeah. But I'm just different, That's all. I learned how to deal with it, being different. I'm not saying different in a good or a bad way, just different. So my relatives used to tell me rather. Okay, Astrology of the Old Testament, chapter 1. The belief in God, intuitive, I would argue strongly against that. The belief in God is not intuitive. Unless you have been raised in a culture that teaches that there's an external deity, who's watching over you and you need to pay attention to and serve him, it, her. So it's not intuitive. Not at all. Not at all. In fact, the only reason you know about any external deity is because you were taught that. You were taught about these external deities. But so when we're born, when we ascend out of our mother's womb, we don't have this notion of an external God. We see ourselves as just part of the environment. Part of the environment. In fact, y'all, think. Remove yourself from an urban area or from a small city. Put yourself on a plane, on a farm. Are you going to sit there and pray for something to eat? Or are you going to go out there and get your food, get your shelter on your own? Think about it. Are you going to be praying for a good job? Or are you going to be out there doing everything that you can do, cooperating with others to make your life as comfortable as possible? You're not going to be waiting and praying on some external deity. That would not even come to your mind. Anyway, let's continue. Chapter 1. If you disagree, put it in the comment section. Let me know why you disagree. Or if you agree. So belief in God is intuitive. Quote. This is coming from Psalms, chapter 14, verse 1. The fool hath said in his heart, there is no God. So am I a fool, y'all? And God is capital G-O-D. The fool has said in his heart that there is no God. No capital G-O-D. Now, any educated person on this topic will readily tell you that there is no capital G-O-D. There is not one. There's no capital letters in the ancient Hebrew. No capital letters. So there is no capital G-O-D. Oh, and by the way, y'all, there's Hebrew is a corruption of Iber. Okay? So Ibaryath, ancient Ibaryath, the script, the pictographs or the letters, they're called Phoenician. Okay? Clear? So make sure you understand that biblical Hebrew, no such thing. They made it up. All right? Also modern Hebrew. The original text, ancient Ibaryath, or ancient Phoenician Hebrew. And there are three scripts. There are three scripts. So if you want to know more about that, you can buy my book, 911 Ibaryath Rescue. It's the purple book. The international edition is black and white. And then there's another one. It's full color. So if you like beauty and color, don't get the international edition. Just get the regular 911 Ibaryath Rescue. Okay? But if you want the lower price and black and white, get 911 Ibaryath Rescue International Edition. Also, subscribe to the 101 Ancient Ibaryath course so y'all can get the fundamentals. Okay, go through the course, make sure you understand it, and achieve mastery. Okay? 101 Ancient Ibaryath. The link is in the description area of the video for the course and the book. Okay, plus other books I got. But let's go back to this word God. God is a verb transitive. God is a verb transitive. A verb like run, a verb transitive. Everybody see that? The fool have said in his heart, there is no God. Well, I just showed you there's no capital G-O-D. Now, when you go into Strong's lexicon, or you go to any decent interlinear, what are you going to find? Well, God is specified as a true God. So there is a specification for a true and a false God. Y'all got that? But there's no specification in the biblical text. Y'all go back and watch the video. I covered this in, I always cite this video. Go back and watch the video I did on Genesis chapter 1 and chapter 2. It's called A Critical Analysis of Genesis chapter 1 and chapter 2, something like that. One of the videos I did is like 6 hours long. The first 2 hours there are two Hebrew Israelite Christians. They probably get mad when I say that. But two Hebrew Israelite Christians, you know, I consider them to be friends. They go through the Christian doctrine mixed with some Judaism type of doctrine on Genesis chapter 1, the first 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 verses, something like that. But then after that, at about 2 hours and 4 minutes into the video, I go in and show you the etymological meaning and get into the analysis of it, okay? So y'all go back and watch that, and you'll get more information on this word God. I'm telling you, they did a job on us with this word God. A real job on us with this word God. Okay? Now, God is also Odin. God, Odin, and actually, God is the modern spelling of Odin and Woden. Okay? The modern spelling of Odin and Woden. And I read somewhere, I don't remember where, I probably shouldn't say it, but it's very interesting. I read somewhere that Odin and Woden are the same deities. I read somewhere that that's thought. You know, the Egyptian deity thought, right? Doesn't matter. The point is that God is non-specific. God is non-specific. Okay, it's a whole bundle of deities on top of a verb transitive, on top of good, G-O-O-D, strike out one of the O's, and you get God. Go back to the Maserat, right, the old path. Y'all, I'm doing like this, the circle between my hands. Go back to the Maserat, the old path, and you get the constant cycle of good, right? The royal arc, spring equinox to fall equinox, the royal arc, the kingdom of God, enlightenment, Christ, summer solstice, and then below the equinoctial points, you get darkness, right? Or evil, devil, Satan, at the winter solstice. Y'all remember that? So the constant battle between good and evil, the constant regrowth or the upcoming of the next or the ongoing generation, its maturation and its decline and eventual death, right? Its destruction and breakdown in the soil to its component parts, depending on which decomposers break it down. It returns to the soil, right? And then in the spring, when the soil unfreezes and the number of daylight hours increase to the point where it sparks or initiates the vegetation to produce the next or ongoing generations. So the good and the evil, right? The constant cycle of the good in the kingdom of the heavens. Whatever a man soweth, whatever he cultivates, that he shall also reap. You get paid by that righteous, that just one. And then the evil, those wintry months, all the way back until the transition between winter and spring. All right? So that's the good and the evil, the constant cycle, the light and the darkness. Okay, Luke, Lucius, Lucifer, Lucas, Lucifer, the light bearer, right? And then dark Vader. That's what's happening here. And of course, dog spelled backwards, D-O-G spelled backwards, is God. That's the series, the Sirius dog stars, major, minor. This is God. The fool have said in his heart, there is no God. Jeremiah 8, verse 8. Jeremiah 8, verse 8. Now, if God means thought, y'all know the Egyptian deity Thought? Y'all know what I'm talking about? Thought? So if this verse secretly means thought, the Egyptian deity, let's take it a step further. Doesn't thought sound like thought? Doesn't thought sound like thought, y'all? Only a fool saith in his heart, there is no thought. There is no thought. The first law of the Hermetic Laws is what? All is mind. Thought. What is man? Man is thought made manifest from the land. Therefore, man is the substance and subject matter of the law. If it ain't about you more, it ain't about nothing. So you more, autochthonous, Genesis chapter 2, verse 7, more, are the substance and subject matter of the law. You are the rightful heir. We are the people. We are the people, the posterity, the ongoing generations, right? The ongoing generations of our ancient ancestors and our ancestors who wrote the preamble to the Constitution of the United States of North America, the organic Constitution. We are they, the people. I'm a people, you're a people, we are the people. Okay? That ongoing generation, just like in the springtime, we're the ongoing generation. Okay, we are thought made manifest from the land. Therefore, all of the powers of government, executive, legislative, and judicial, are reserved for us. But anyway, I think I've been going too long on this, but it's fun, right? This Psalms, this verse, Psalms 14, verse 1. The fool hath said in his heart, there is no God. Okay, so you're looking at God, and when I look at you, and when you look in the mirror, you're also looking at God. Okay, when I see you, I'm looking at God. Of course, I'm speaking connotatively, right? And when you look at the next more and the other more, feminine or masculine, you are looking at God. In fact, you're looking at a reflection of yourself. Only a fool says there is no God. Let's state it differently. If you believe in a Big Bang where there was nothing and then something created everything, right? Something created God and then God created everything else. See, that's foolishness. Why? Because you can never get something from nothing. See, there'd have to be some physics. There'd have to be some physics in place that govern how whatever that is present moves and interacts, right? So that's a something, let alone some spark, which totally goes against the laws of thermodynamics, right? Energy cannot be created or destroyed, and things go from perfection to disorder, not from disorder to perfection. And there's no 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 that I know of cellular organisms. But yet we see men and women like us who have billions, trillions of cells, right? And then a bacteria, that, one cell. But that's a whole other story. So I hope y'all have fun with this. Only the fool saith in his heart, there is no God. I hope y'all see the point. Depending on, where you're at in your learning and your consciousness, God could be to you money. It could be your parents, any authority figure. It could be the magistrate, your clergy. Most of y'all, for most of y'all, your gods are the hybrids and your clergy, your pastor, your reverend, your imam. These are your gods, to tell the truth, whether you admit it or not. But whether your God is the Tetragrammaton, Jesus, Apollo, Jupiter. I'm trying to get my my legs out of the way of these mosquitoes. Or thought, right? Let's say you are into chematology, or you already know about thought. Man is thought made manifest. Okay, that reality will be true for you. Okay, so if you believe in these external deities, well, they might visit you. They might visit you. But if you don't, they cannot. So let's get into the paragraph. The belief in some great governing power is intuitive. Naturally locating that power somewhere in the vast realms of eternal and illimitable space, and from the apparent source of light, somewhere in the region of mystery, the starry firmament of the heavens. Now, I disagree with him, disbelief in some great governing power. No, I don't agree with that at all. I remember when I was a little boy, when I was a real little boy, my whole day was based upon the sun. When the sun came out, I woke up in the morning, I went out to play. When it started raining, I went home. Right? Everything was based on the S-U-N, sun. Wasn't until even when I was going to church, I was real little, going to church. For that little bit of time that we went to church, I wasn't thinking about no external deity. Not at all. You go sit through those long sermons. Never came to my mind. My mind was about what am I going to do when I go outside to play, all based on the sun. Now put yourself back in an agricultural situation, right? You're on the farm. Everything you do is going to be based upon the sun. And if it's not, you will receive feedback from Mama Earth in terms of suffering and punishment. So that if you survive the winter, if you're in the north, if you survive winter, all of that struggle, all of that danger that you exposed yourself to, maybe you had to kill animals to survive and you didn't want to do it. Well, next spring, guess what? Next spring, since you got that corrective action, you're going to cultivate. You're going to cultivate. You're going to do a better job than you did last year. Right? All of it's based upon the sun. And that's why our ancestors kept almanacs, farmers' almanacs. Anyway, so I disagree with this. I disagree with it very, very much. This belief has existed from countless ages. The uneducated and superstitious Aboriginal. How about that, y'all? The uneducated and superstitious Aboriginal. Well, you can tell this author's frame of mind, right? You can tell his mindset. But let's go over to page. Turn over to page 5, y'all. Turn over to page 5. Let me see, where is it? Where do I want to go? Okay. So y'all, let me read this. First paragraph, page 5. I'm going to start after purgatory. Okay, this is what it reads. But in ancient times was lying in the quote-unquote arms of Osiris and the quote-unquote bosom of Ab-Ram, Ab-Ram, R-A-M, or due east. Let's skip down. Then you'll see Ram, R, A, M, about halfway down the paragraph, right smack in the middle. Let's pick up reading there. And Ab, A-B, y'all, and Ab from father or generator or original. Y'all see where this is going? And Ab, A-B, from father or generator or original. Well, remember Aries? Aries? Right, y'all? Aries? The spring equinox? The ram? Right? Aries the ram. Aries the ram. So starting here at Aries the ram, this is what? The father or generator or original. So what is this telling us? Aboriginal. Aboriginal means the father, the original people, right? Now, some people will say, never say aboriginal. Why? Because they'll say ab as in abnormal or abhorrent. They'll say abhorrent. Abhorrent original. In other words, the original people are abhorrent. But here we see, according to astrology, the aboriginal or the aboriginal people are, let me, you know what? Let me do this justice. Let me do this justice. Sorry, y'all. I'm real. Every time I come here, I know I say it all the time, but every time I come here, I'm like super distracted from. You would think that they would like do something so that the customers would be comfortable, or maybe customers won't come here and then not come back because too many mosquitoes. But anyway, that ain't got nothing to do with me. But let's go to page 4, chapter 1, page 4, y'all. No, I'm gonna start. Let me see, what do I want to do? There's a little bit of ways to go there. No, you know what? Just hold that thought. Okay, we're gonna come back to it. You're gonna see why this is so significant. Because it's not just about aboriginal or abhorrent original or the father, the first people, the original. It's not just about that. I want you to see the astrological source. In other words, its source in nature. Let's go back. Let's go back. The uneducated and superstitious aboriginal. Now that is a slap in the face to the Moors. Unless, well, I can't even say unless because they use the word aboriginal. So I can't even, you know, what my thought was, what I was going to say is that the hybrid troglodytes, the Paleolithic cavemen and women lived in caves, would have been at this level of intellectual depravity. To believe and think like the author is about to discuss. Y'all listen to this. Listen to this. Now keep in mind that we come from a rich heritage of builders. But we didn't just build. We have a documented, perfect understanding of the cosmos. And we built megalithic structures that were aligned with the cosmos. So it's not just guessing and believing. It's hardcore facts. The evidence is there all over the world. You'll find mounds and pyramids. Okay? and other megalithic structures, okay, that attest or testify to the advanced science of our ancient ancestors, okay? But now listen to this. Also, y'all know the book, The Golden Age of the Moors by, who's the author? Is it Dr. Ivan van Sertima? But there are many books like that speak to the high civilization that we had, our water resources management sciences, right, etc. And look at the beautiful cathedrals that we built. Look at the Moorish architecture that we built. And the cathedrals were not churches. They were not churches. Okay, they were not churches. What didn't have nothing to do with worshiping any gods. Okay, universities. Anyway, let's continue. The uneducated, y'all see that slap in the face? Calling our people who have all of these achievements, megalithic monuments that testify to our advanced technology and education. Yet he in 1892 refers to us, and this is a religious man who's supporting Christianity. The author, the uneducated and superstitious Aboriginal. Now, I just thought of something I didn't think about. Well, no, I was going to say maybe he's talking about the Moors in his day, but that's not correct, because he's talking about assuming, he's making the assumption of evolution. So he's influenced by Darwinism, the science of his day. Listen, y'all. Imbued with the sense of the master spirit. Now, he makes this claim. How does he know? Was he there? How does he know they were imbued with the sense of the master spirit? How does he know? It's a baseless claim. But do y'all see that this baseless claim is the title of the chapter? The belief in God intuitive. See, let's take that away from him. Let's say he was not imbued with the sense of a master spirit. Let's say he was just like me, or just like you when you were a child. The sun, the S-U-N sun, governed everything you did. Right? Governed everything you did. Right? I wasn't thinking about any gods. In fact, gods are superstitious. That's superstition. Because that's something your imagination has to come up with. And you have to imagine. In other words, it's not in your physical environment, but the sun is right there in your physical environment. It's concrete. Y'all see that? So let's take that away from him. This argument completely crumbles. Listen. In his ignorance, let's take that away from him, because there's no evidence to show that our ancient ancestors were ignorant. But he's coming from this at a evolutionary point of view, right? Where there was a big bang, there was nothing, and then a big bang, and then there was these atoms that came together, formed molecules, and these molecules came together and formed proteins, and these proteins came together and formed single cellular organisms, and these single cellular organisms found a way to divide and replicate themselves. Now, y'all know the DNA. Your DNA prevents an organism from changing. When these changes occur, that's cancer. Okay? And these changes these changes almost always are detrimental to the cell. In fact, I don't know of any case where they're beneficial, unless it might have something to do, like a, what is it called, y'all, in the hot climate? I don't know why it's not coming to my mind. You get a mosquito bite. What is that disease called? Malaria. I have to find a better place to go. This place is near me, so it's really convenient, but I'm too distracted. I think I'm gonna find another place to go. Even if I have, sometimes I travel so that I can be in a better venue, but because it's Tet holiday, everybody's preparing for Tet holiday, I chose to come here. Where was it? Oh, so he's coming from that evolutionary point of view. Now, y'all know the problem with this, right? See, evolution, natural selection is the problem. Here's the problem. Natural selection says that the newest organism is the most advanced. And the most advanced organism, therefore, because it is the most advanced, has the right to dominate all of the lesser advanced organisms below it. Let me denominate that differently. That's the head of the coin. Take that same coin, flip it over. The tail of the coin is this. I'm going to speak, well, I was going to speak connotatively. The hybrid, therefore, says, it stands to reason, the hybrid says that since the hybrid is the newest creature, mankind, the hybrid, the Neanderthal, is the newest creature on the planet, it is therefore the most advanced, and it therefore has a right by nature to dominate all other men and women. In other words, y'all, let me go ahead and speak connotatively. I'm speaking connotatively. In other words, white people are the most advanced. And of course, they're not white people, and of course, they're not the most advanced. I'm speaking in a way that everybody can understand it. White people are the most advanced, and therefore, because they're white, the black people should be their bondmen and bondwomen according to nature. Right? According to nature. Why? Because they're lower on the evolutionary scale. So this is what this author is talking about. And this is the mindset of religious people. The religious clergy are of this mindset. Now, many of you Moors, we're steeped in ignorance. We don't know what's happening. And I'm not saying that to slight you, but that's the fact. What is it called, y'all? They have a term for it that became popular, I think, in the 80s and 90s. It was called something like evolution by creation, or something like that. So it was God's will for things to evolve. Therefore, the hybrid troglodyte nigger, the Neanderthal, the Paleolithic caveman, the colonizer had a right by nature, to steal using brute force, warfare, guided by divine providence, to enslave you, to terrorize and torture you forever and ever and ever and ever. The doctrine of discovery. Unum sanctum. The Sisycute Trust. 14th Amendment. Manifest destiny. Did I say unum sanctum, y'all? That's what it's about. Let's keep reading. Now see, if you're not thinking and you read this, you might find yourself saying, yeah, that's right. Because this is what you were taught in school. This is not an education. That is a indoctrination. There's no evidence of evolution. This is why people who believe in evolution, what are they going to tell you? Billions and billions, or maybe even trillions of years had to go by. Why? Because the probability of these things happening are so huge and improbable that you have to have a scale of an unfathomable number of years. It's just all bullshit, to speak frankly. And by the way, why don't we see it happening now? So that the modern scientists or evolutionists will tell you, well, it's not time. It happens, it happens in spurts. It happens and it stops. Well, how do you know? Where's your evidence for that? You can just say anything. And I'm supposed to believe it? Absolutely not. See, the evolution game, the natural selection game, is a lie that supports them being in power and dominating you. Genesis chapter 1. And having supremacy over you, and then saying it's the right of God. And isn't it in Genesis chapter 1, y'all, that the Elohim gives them what? The Elohim gives them what? Dominion. The Elohim commissions them, charges them, says, and have in subjection, have domination over everything on the planet, including everything that moves upon the earth. That would be Genesis chapter 2, verse 7, men and women. Okay, y'all? Is that clear? So God, listen, remember what we discussed about God. God gave them power, the right to rule over the Moors, over the autochthonous men and women, or the aboriginal, the fathers. Well, who are these fathers? These fathers are the Elohim. The fathers are the Elohim. Huh? We're the substance and subject matter of the law. We are thought. We're thought made manifest from the soil. Huh? You cannot give something that you don't have. Huh? So our renegade ancestors, the Elohim, we are the Elohim. Okay? Gave them something that they do not rightfully have or can't even possess. All you got to do is look in the book of the law. It says a human is a monster and it cannot inherit land. Right? Although born from what does it say? Born from a womb of a woman, or born from marriage, or something like that. Look in Bouvier's Law Dictionary. Is it Bouvier? Han Uman, the human. Han Uman, half monkey, half man. Everybody see that? So yes. Who are these Elohim? Probably the Yaqub, the renegade Moor, Yaqub, and his team of feminine scientists and engineers. Maybe there was some Raphaim involved in that. And Raphaim cannot give anybody the right to rule. They're hybrids themselves. If they don't have it to possess, you can't give something that's not rightfully yours. Only the Moors, the autochthonous Moors, can do that. Right? And even when it's a hybrid, it cannot be done. That's why, my position, I thought about this. And I thought, why would our ancestors, through the Constitution for the United States of North America, why would they give the hybrid citizenship? Right? Why would they make them sovereign? And then I started to think, well, maybe it's because, maybe they didn't. Maybe they gave that status to Moorish Europeans, right? That would make more sense because they're autochthonous. They're just not, they're on our land and not their own. That would make sense. But then I thought about it. Well, we didn't give them the land. We gave them use of it, right? We gave them use of it. And when you go into, what book is it? Maybe is it Exodus 25, y'all? I don't remember. I haven't looked at it in a while. The land can be rented. The number of harvests, the 49, right? 7 times 7, 49 on the 50th year is a Jubilee year, right? That principle, I thought, I don't know. Maybe because it's a trust agreement, we gave the Moorish Europeans use of our land, those 13 colonies. Did we give it to the hybrids? I don't know, right? Maybe we did, or maybe they just put themselves in the shoes of the European Moors. But that would make sense to me. I'm just telling y'all my thoughts. I wasn't there, I don't know. But to give a hybrid an inheritance, knowing that by law, by nature, they cannot inherit land, and then if we did that, well, that would be really stupid, right? But I don't see any indication. Well, maybe they did do it knowingly. I don't know. It's just an issue. Anyway, let's keep going. But imagine if they are not. Imagine if the hybrids were not included as state citizens, and they just assume that role. Okay, then what? What's their status in relation to us now? It's just something to think about. Okay, now let's continue with this evolutionary train of thinking. In his ignorance, selected that which was vast, grand, and overpowering in nature as the symbol of this greatness, and worship it as a substitute. Now here's the problem. He's pushing a religious paradigm. Worship. He's making the huge assumption or presumption that our ancestors were worshiping. Well, let's take that away from them. They were not worshiping. They observed and they applied the scientific method. And they perfected all of the sciences. Now we have evidence of that. The only evidence we have of this religious stuff is evidence that they produced, the hybrids produced. Just what they say. That's all, just what they say. You'd have to be a, I don't want to say you have to be a fool, but you have to be under a spell. So you have to be under a spell to see these magnificent, highly technically advanced megalithic structures, buildings, pyramids, mounds, and all of the other ancient artifacts, the astrology, to think that such people could be bowing down and worshiping external deities. Now there's a video that I've seen years ago, and then there's a popular, what's that guy's name? Have y'all heard of Forbidden Knowledge? That guy, I don't remember his name. But he was talking about something I saw on the video about how these people on a remote island saw a plane or a helicopter or something like that for the first time. And I'm paraphrasing, I don't remember all the details. But according to the story, he didn't make it up. I saw a video of it from a long time ago that claimed that these people, these forest people, and by the way, how do you think they came about to live in the forest? They're probably living there because they escaped for their lives when the colonists were there. And so they hid out in the forest, right? But when they saw the people get off the plane or helicopter, or they thought they were gods. Now, you have to be a fool to believe that. That's like me seeing some craft and some people coming out and I'm thinking that they're gods. You're only going to believe that if you've been watching too many Marvel movies. No, I might think, oh wow, that's pretty cool. How did they build that? But you're gonna get off and I'm gonna bow down and worship you? I mean, that's crazy. But this is the mindset that they want to keep us in. And this is the mindset that they're pushing. And worship it as a, so in other words, you're going to worship it instead of study it. Come on, y'all. When you got your first cell phone, did you start worshiping your cell phone? The forest, gloomy, grand, awful in solitude, filled his fantasies with innumerable superstitions. Okay, so he's living in the forest. What fool is going to live in the forest? Y'all tell me. Are you going to live in the forest? By forest, there's trees everywhere. No, you're not going to live in the forest. Where are you going to go? You're going to go somewhere where the land is flat. If you can't find flat land, you're going to go on a hill, right? And build you a shelter there. Why? Because it's not safe in the forest. Clear? Y'all, I mean, what would y'all do? Would you sit there and sleep in a forest? Or would you look for land where there were not a bunch of trees and you can see what's around you? And if you couldn't find that, would you say, okay, I'm gonna build shelter on a mountain, on a hill, so I can see around me, so I can defend myself if I need to. Okay, so he looked in the forest. He ain't got no common sense. It's gloomy. Okay, so he wake up, there's maybe hoarfrost, fog on the ground. In the evening, it's dark. He's scared, ain't got common sense. The forest is gloomy, it's grand, it's awful in solitude. He all by himself. Well, wait a minute. Men, people, we like to, not only like to, we need to live in groups. We can't survive by ourselves. Right? It's not our personality. We need to live in groups. Okay, that's natural. There's a word for that, but I can't remember the word for it. Okay, so these gloomy, huge, awful forests. Now, I don't see why he would say the forest is awful. Who sees the forest as being awful? He's trying to get you to believe that this man is scared to death. Okay, so the conditions in the forest filled his fantasies, filled his imagination with innumerable superstitions. So he's sitting there imagining, all kind of stuff that's gonna come at him and happen to him, using his imagination in a very negative and destructive way. I don't buy that at all. I don't buy that at all. Why? Because I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't waste my time imagining scared to death, in the corner, scared to death, wondering what's going to happen. I'd take the initiative to build what I have to build and protect myself. I certainly wouldn't let negative thoughts. So I'm supposed to, I hear a sound and, I think it's a ghost. No. You'd have to get the notion, you'd have to be taught the notion that things die and become ghosts in order for that to happen. If I hear a sound, I'm going to think it's an animal, maybe a predator, or maybe my friend. Right, y'all? And to him, that's this man living in the forest all by himself, it sounds like. The wilderness, the forest became filled with the moans and mutterings of departed souls. Listen to this. So the forest, this man's home, is a place where he's terrified. That's the author's point. And you got dead things, ghosts. Well, if y'all were with me last class, you know that the S-O-U-L is something that the Catholics made up. And we're going to get into that. This is related to the Aboriginal. Okay, the natural phenomenon where that comes from. Okay, so now he's afraid of things that died coming back to life to do him harm. So this poor dude, he ain't got common sense. Okay, and his imagination just ran away with him. He just terrorized. So soul comes from the Latin word for S-U-N, sun, which is S-O-L. Soul, S-O-L. Okay, it is the S-U-N, sun in English, which is the S-O-N in English. Dutch and German, S-U-N and S-O-N, sun, are the same. Okay? Now, the Catholic Church just decided to take S-O-L and slap a U after the O. And then they said it lives forever. Okay? And then they scare you to death and say that if you don't do what the clergy says, you're going to burn in hell. Your soul is going to burn in hell. But if you do what they say, give up your birthright, give them possession of all your lands, all your title, and your dignity, all your resources. In other words, you accept them as taking your role as the subject and subject matter, the substance rather, and subject matter of the law. You agree to trade places with them. Then you get to go to heaven. Okay, and you agree to be their bondman or their bondwoman for life, including all your generations, all the ongoing, all the next generations. You need to put them in servitude. This is what's happening. So now let's take S-O-U-L away from them. Now there is no such thing as a departed soul that survives death and goes to heaven or hell. Take that away. Catholic Church just made that up. So when the physical body expires, well, what happens? Well, energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only do what? It can only transform itself or be transformed. Take on a new form. Which is exactly what happens. Which is what? Well, I'm not going to go into the Hermetic Law of gender, because that's going to take us into a whole other discussion. But does everyone see the point? So there's nothing to be afraid of. And besides, why would he have to be afraid? Why not he be happy? If there was a S-O-U-L, why couldn't they be friendly? Working toward his interest. Y'all see what I mean? And he's happy instead of terrified. No, because he's talking like this because you need to talk like this in order to push the evolution, in order for it to make sense. Right? If he's not terrified, he don't need an external deity. He don't need to worship somebody. Y'all see it? He's content in himself. Just like the black people in North America. When they get some fiat and they don't feel like they need anybody, they feel like they are what? Strong black woman. High value man. Many of them treat other people like Escheat because they feel like they don't need them. It's the same concept. Y'all see? Whether you agree with me or not, I'm not asking for your agreement. I'm asking to understand the logic or my rationale and the author's rationale, because I'm only trying to explain the author's rationale as I see it. Okay? So let's take the departed souls away, because that's a Catholic notion. That's a doctrine. And they got nothing to do with the Bible. They just made that up and threw it in there, y'all. And for propitiation of what he felt to be a nameless destroyer. Why all of this negative stuff? Why all of this fear-mongering? See, it's not just a destroyer. It's a nameless destroyer. That adds another level or two of fear. It's the unknown destroyer. That's another level of fear. Okay, so because of that, what does the man do? He offered gifts. He offered gifts. In other words, he gave sacrifices. He offered gifts to some stupendous monarch of the forest. So he started offering sacrifices to whatever was scaring the hell out of him in the forest, whatever he imagined it to be. Y'all realize how crazy that is? You'd have to be crazy to do that. You have to be schizo to do that. Okay, now imagine, you're scared to death. Let's say you're in your house alone. The wind is blowing, you know, the house is making the normal sounds that you would hear because of the wind or whatever. You're scared to death. You start to imagine that there's somebody there, some people, some animals who died and came back to life. Where did you get that notion from? To even begin to think like that. You got it through your education, right? Well, let's remove the education. You're not going to get that thought. It's not going to even come into your consciousness. And let's follow the story even further. Let's say you get the thought, and then you say, oh, shoot, maybe if I go kill a chicken, then these ghosts will be happy. Maybe if I go kill a cow, cut his neck and pour all his blood out, maybe these ghosts will be happy. Y'all see how crazy that sounds? Or how about this? How about this? When I was forensic psychiatry. I can't remember. I don't remember the name of the drug right now. I have experience with these kind of patients. What did they call? I'm thinking about what was the name of that? I think it was they had their own name for it, but it was like meth. One was meth, the other was crack, but they have names for it. I'm talking about a different country. These people, it's so sad. As early as 9 years old, no, maybe 12 years old. So at about 5 to 7, the street kids, children rather, they start using glue, sniffing glue. I'm not going to say the country. Sniffing glue. And they graduate from glue to cigarettes to marijuana. And around the time of 11 or 12 or so, they start doing meth or crack. Okay? And then they start to hear things, see things. So a voice would tell them, kill your neighbor, kill your mother. Or they would see their mother or their neighbor with a weapon. Or they would imagine that, you know, the mother, the neighbor was coming after them to do them violence. And they actually killed their mothers and their neighbors, etc. Y'all hear me? Killed them. Why? Because the voice told them to. See, sometimes, well, often they're hearing voices telling the child to kill someone. Other times they see things and hear things. Right? So you mean to tell me that this man in the forest, by now he's already been driven crazy? He's already been driven crazy. If he's been driven crazy, how's he going to survive? But you're telling me he's been driven crazy, so now he's going to start doing animal sacrifices. Y'all see how ridiculous this is? This is an insult on your intelligence once you start thinking about it. So he offers gifts to some stupendous monarch of the forest. If you're so terrified of someone, this unknown, unnamed destroyer who done drove you out of your mind or close to driving you out of your mind, what in the world makes you think that if you give it something, it's not going to harm you. Even if it tells you that it won't. What kind of fool do you have to be to believe it? This is, for me, this is ridiculous. Okay, some great monster or great serpent, with all dissatisfaction, but still striving to fathom the unknown. So he's doing all of this crazy. He's doing all of this crazy in his effort to understand the unknown, to understand his surroundings, his environment. Well, I mean, all you got to do is observe, right? All you got to do is observe. You can observe the animals, you can observe the birds, you can observe the wind, you can observe the rivers and the streams and the fish. All you got to do is observe. Since when has someone been in the forest? Have you all ever heard of this? You go camping and you're scared to death. What might scare you are the animals. Right? But once you become accustomed, now think about this, you're accustomed to living in the forest. Like here, I've gone to the provinces here in Vietnam, and people live on a farm. They don't have alligators and bears. They don't have that here in Vietnam. And the people go out at night, right? They got their dogs. They got their dogs. And they go out at night, ain't nobody scared. Now, I was uncomfortable, but that was because I'm not familiar with the forest. But they're not scared at all. Not one bit. And they have farm animals like cows, and they have all of that. Pigs, and they have everything. But there are no predators. And ain't nobody scared. So I'm looking at, and they have beautiful, beautiful rolling hills, emerald green lakes and streams. Beautiful landscapes, forests, flatlands. I have yet to see in Vietnam anybody living in the forest. They have flat land, right? They may have some trees around their house, but they're not living in the forest. Absolutely not. Are there forests? Absolutely. But they're not scared. Even at night, they go outside. So, y'all, this evolution stuff is a crock of S-H-I-T. But remember who it's coming from. It is coming from an educated Christian. Huh? Continue. Page 1 of chapter 1. This man who's living in the forest, his wants and necessities as his intellect became developed. Y'all see that? In other words, these niggas, these primitive niggas, these superstitious aboriginals, over a huge amount of time, transitioned from being apes to the lowest form of men. Their brains started to work and started to develop. Okay, they developed some intellect. Okay, ultimately, the modern, what people commonly call the modern European, connotatively, I don't even want to say it. The modern human, or let's just say the human. Okay, the human, the kind of man, the symbolicum of a man was developed. Okay, now let's continue. The Aboriginal's wants and necessities, as his intellect became developed, caused him to become more and more civilized and to cease from slaying, to cultivate the ground wherein he found all that was good for man. In other words, this connotative white man, the pinnacle of creation, the highest on the evolutionary ladder of creation, came into being, and he cultivated the ground, and he found that cultivating, farming was good for man, so that in gathering together of his species, in other words, the white people stopped living in forests and they formed communities. Okay, they formed communities, civilizations outside of the forest, so that in the gathering together of his species, there came 1,000 pleasures and extensions of knowledge. Y'all hear that? Y'all hear that? Do you believe that? Do y'all give that full faith and credit? He became this Paleolithic caveman, the Neanderthal, the hybrid troglodyte nigger, the colonizer, became a builder. Oh, wait a minute. To build, you need to know, you need to have a good understanding of mathematics, geometry, right? A writing system. You need to have a writing system. Cease to be nomadic. Stop running around from one place to another. His faculties became equal to necessity. In other words, there was not a situation that he, the colonizer, would find himself in that he was not equipped mentally and emotionally to conquer and overcome. Why? Natural selection. He's the pinnacle. He is the pinnacle of evolutionary beings. He became a builder, ceasing to be nomadic, stopped running around, started to live in one place, built communities, built a society, a civil society, meaning that he had laws. He conceived of laws and followed them. Now y'all know, y'all ought to have enough common sense to know that that ain't true about the Neanderthal, the Paleolithic caveman, the troglodyte nigger. They don't follow their own statutes and codes, let alone constitutional laws. They don't do it now. What makes you think they would have done it 5,000-10,000 years ago? We must think, scholars, we must think. His faculties became equal to necessity. In other words, a problem comes along and he solves the problem. Another problem comes along and he solves the problem. Right? Y'all see it? His faculties become equal to necessity, which is always the mother of invention and thought. Problems are the mother of invention and thought. Well, first of all, what do we know? What do we know? that the Paleolithic caveman is not inventive compared to us. Far behind us in terms of creativity. And I'm not putting them down, but that's just the fact. Also thought. No question about it. Now, intellectual capacity, y'all research Dr. Gabriel Oyebu. He's the author of Gaga, God Almighty Grand Unified Theory. Okay, y'all Google search him, search him on YouTube, and he's going to tell you about some research that was funded by President Clinton in the 1990s, where they measured, they compared the genes for intelligence between the autochthonous Moors and the hybrids. Y'all go look at those results, go watch that. No comparison between our intellect and theirs. Absolutely none. Also of the intellectual capacities of the, I think it was the, I don't remember which primates. Maybe it was a gorilla. I don't remember. But also primates. Y'all go check that out. All right? He found, this is the, he's referencing now the Neanderthal, the colonizer. He found that he could repeat the process of nature. Oh, so now he's developed science and engineering and created technologies. Okay? Y'all hear that? So he went from being scared of every little sound, right? The black people are cowards. Y'all know that stereotype? Childish boys. And the colonizers are courageous and strong. Now he's developed this, but not just science, repeatable science. So he can repeat, duplicate things in nature, which adds another level of academic achievement, which means that not only an individual scientist, when you do something, you need to package it in such a way where other sciences can get your work and then duplicate it, repeat it, to show that, well, yeah, what he said is true because we got the same result. This is just outrageous. It's outrageous because when you realize that they were just coming out of the caves, in the Middle Ages, where did they get all of this science, all of these books? Well, they got it from us. They stole it. And then to put their name, plagiarized it. And that's just a fact. He learned to spin and weave, and later became skilled in art and the use of metals. So y'all, this is called culture. He developed culture. Spinning and weaving, clothing, cooking food, science, building a society, establishing, this is culture. Government and culture. As his faculties increased and he became more and more intellectually developed and comprehended that the summer brought forth countless good things. So you mean to tell me that that the autochthonous Moors, the original men and women, didn't have enough common sense to know that when summertime came, it was a fantastic time of the year. That August and September, that there would be an abundance of food, fruit, vegetables, beautiful fragrances. It took how many tens of thousands of years before them to recognize this pattern? This is pattern recognition, right, y'all? Pattern recognition. How old were you, scholars? How old were you when you realized my parents go, or my father, my mother goes to the grocery store once a week, once every 2 weeks? How old were you when you realized that? Or even the day that he or she went to the grocery store? How old were you when you realized that summer comes after spring, and spring comes after winter, and winter comes after fall? How old were you when you realized that? Y'all think it took 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, a million years for that to happen? Or were they were just so, they were so stupid. They were at the level of a monkey. But I would be surprised. I would like to know if a monkey knows the seasons. Certainly a bear does, right? Because a bear hibernates. This is just incredible to me. Oh, and by the way, I saw something that made me feel really bad. I was shocked. Y'all know in Asia, they got these huge cockroaches. Huge cockroaches. They can fly. And sometimes they get turned over on their back, and you see their creepy legs moving. Ew, it's disgusting, right? They're trying to get up. If they don't get up, the little ants will come and eat them. Right? These big cockroaches are afraid to death of ants. And there's some big ants here too. I've seen some crazy stuff. I've seen these big ants chasing cockroaches. And I've seen these big cockroaches scared to death of ants. I mean, you can see it, right? I'm observing nature. So this surprised me. I saw a cockroach. Like I said, he was turned over trying to get up, legs moving everywhere. And then there was another cockroach running for his life, and he was exhausted. And I just watched him. And then when he got himself together, he went over to the cockroach that was on his back and touched him, like connected his arms, so that the cockroach could turn over and get back on his feet. And when he did that, he helped them turn over, and then they went their separate ways. That made me feel bad. Because to me, that shows some level of empathy that the cockroach had. Then I thought, well, maybe it was random. Maybe that was random. But then part of me said, no, it's not random, because he went over there. And the cockroach that helped him, he was in a bad situation himself. But once he recuperated, he went and helped the other one turn over. I said, well, wow, maybe they have some emotion, some empathy. So I think twice about next time I step on a cockroach. Sometimes you can't help it. Sometimes you might see them and you can avoid them. I said, I think twice next time. But yeah, that's a true story. So anyway, let's continue. So now, this man who's developing his intellectual capability, his awareness about his environment, what does that have to do? As a matter of fact, what does being aware of your environment have to do with your intellectual capabilities? I don't have, or the being doesn't have common sense enough to know that at this time of the year, the sun is going to be out longer, it's summertime, and what's coming next is fall. They don't have common sense to recognize that pattern. The smells, the sounds, the different foods that become available or unavailable. Come on, I mean, you have to think that these animals have no intelligence whatsoever. And that's already proven not to be true. They do have intelligence. Okay? And feelings. Have y'all ever saw a dog get hit by a car and then the other dog starts crying, wailing, or trying to pull the other dog out of the street? Have y'all ever seen that? Or the dog just sit there? He sits there with his other friend, and then after a while he leaves. He realizes that he's dead, or he's finished moaning, or he realizes he needs to go on. I've seen that kind of thing. So this stuff to me is ridiculous. But he's building up to something. Okay, the author is building up to something. As his faculties increased and he became more and more intellectually developed and comprehended that summer brought forth countless good things, and that winter was always disastrous, cold, and miserable, he learned that the sun sun's rays revived and renewed all nature. And this is crazy to me. He associated fire and heat with these benign influences as of one and of the same origin. Fire and heat from the sun, fire and heat that he would make. Think about that. That's another point. So all the time you got this stupid creature. The stupid creature was eating raw meat. At what point did the stupid creature develop enough intellect to make a fire? And not just that, y'all. Not just that. In the winter, what you gonna eat? You're gonna have to eat animals, right? Right? But y'all, let me ask you this question. Is there a possibility to get infection when you eat animals, raw flesh? When you eat raw flesh, is there a possibility to get infection? Well, guess what? The liver of most men and women don't produce enough vitamin C to give you an immune system capable of fighting off infections. Think about that. So how is it that you're going to be out here eating raw meat? Oh, you'd get, a lot of people would be getting sick and dying early, right? Getting sick and dying early. You got epidemics of different kind of illnesses. You ain't got enough sense not to eat the feces. So you eat the feces with all of that bacteria. How you gonna get sick? You eat cholera, you're gonna be messed up. This is just absolutely nonsense. Okay? So eventually he figures out fire, and he associates fire and heat with the sun. He calculated by the shadows and angles made of the sun. Here's the geometry. He calculated by the shadows and angles of the sun, and so divided the day. Y'all got that? He calculated the shadows and angles made by the sun. Y'all know it's called a gynometer, right? And the triangle, right? So the sun is at 12 o'clock, okay? The gynometer. So now he's able to do mathematics and geometry. And that's how he was able to know the difference between morning, noon, and evening. Y'all see how, let me just say stupid, how dumb this stuff is? When you think about it, it's absolutely stupid. He watched the moon and timed its quadrants. Okay, so now he's living in societies, right? Let's say he's living on the flat plains or on a mountain. There's a whole community of people. Okay? Let's say they built fences. You mean to tell me that a wild bear or some other predator is not going to come there? He's just sitting there at peace and harmony. He got all this time to reflect. No longer afraid about the wild animals. So now at night, he just sit there, he watched the moon. Ain't scared of nothing now. Right? He's living in civil society. He watched the moon and timed its quadrants, saw that it was at one time dark and overshadowed, and at another shining full orb. He has no proof of this. He was not there. He doesn't know what the person's state of mind was or his living condition. He's just making this story up and wanting you to transport yourself into the narrative. She said, "Oh, I see his reasoning. I see the reasoning." And because you see his reasoning, you transport yourself into narrative and say, "Well, it must be true because I see his reasoning." But that doesn't make it true just because you see his reasoning. Right? This is just his story. Not history, this is just his imaginations. His imaginations of what probably happened. Based upon what? Evolutionary theory. And y'all know also, you should know this, think about this too. If he doesn't approach it from this point of view, his peers will look down on him or even ostracize him. Okay? Branding him as being unscientific. So you got to add that into it. He found some of the shining lights moved, so he found some of the stars moved at different times of the years, while others seemed to stay fixed. Intellect, always ambitious and inspiring. How does he know? Seized upon masterminds, intellect, always ambitious and aspiring, seized upon masterminds who devoted themselves to study in these changes. He has no proof of that. This is all just stories that they made up. These intellectual people, they had time to watch the stars, and then they formed schools. They formed schools, see y'all? A school of intellectuals who eventually become what? Professors of universities, okay? And then many of them, or some of them, broke off and became part of the dark priesthood. Clergy, men and women, religionists. But this is what he's talking about. They form schools or societies, right? Knowledge increased. So now they have intellect. They're now ambitious. They've become aware of the movements of the planets and stars. Some move, some seem to be fixed. And they organized themselves, those who had intellectual capability. I've never known a group of people to organize themselves around who has intellectual capability. Where does that happen? No, people usually organize around people who they like, people who are like them. Yeah, people who they like. And then they'll, oh well, he has all the qualifications and we like him. Even though that person may not have all the qualifications, or if he has them, he got them dishonestly. But the point is that people want to be with people who they like. So this also is BS. So knowledge increased. But then these masterminds, those who in all ages have devoted themselves to the contemplation and study year after year, transmitted their fund of knowledge to those fit to succeed them. Okay, so he's saying they form secret societies. And these at last became varied or became versed in all the mysterious windings of nature. All right, so these schools studied nature and natural law. And they became very good at it. They had a very good understanding of it. And they passed it from one generation to the next. But y'all, how many millions of years did this happen? They ascertained, after countless years of belief, let me rephrase that. They ascertained, in other words, they found out factually to be true, after many years of not knowing but believing, that the SUN sun annually died. So the sun died once a year and was carried away across the great waters to the south of them. So y'all remember the royal ark, the kingdom of the heavens, and then earth or hell. Okay, so south. So the sun gets carried away south, below the equinoctial points, to December 21, December 22, which is the winter solstice, where the sun's southern movement stops, and it moves horizontally until the very end of December 24th, the very beginning of December 25th, where it begins to spring northward. Okay? So when the sun begins to spring northward on December 25th, either a new, according to astrology, two ways to look at it, a new sun is born, or the dead sun that died on December 21, 22, that dead sun becomes resurrected. Okay? Clear? All right, so they ascertained after countless years of belief that the SUN sun annually died, okay, at the winter solstice, and was carried away across the great waters to the south of them, and was buried in the darkness of the winter solstice, okay, on what is now December 22nd. So 1892, the winter solstice was December 22nd, according to this author. Okay, winter solstice, December 22, every year. They, now who is this doing this, y'all? Who is making these achievements, leaps and bounds of achievements? Who's doing it? Well, according to this author, it's the hybrid troglodyte nigger, the last of the species of man to appear on Earth. The blonde, blue-haired, dusty, whatever you want to call it, the Neanderthal. Now this is according to their conception of evolution. So I'm not putting anybody down. I'm just talking about it the way it is, okay? They saw century after century that from December 22nd to December 25, the days neither increased nor diminished. So this is the sun, instead of falling, continuing to fall south, it stops. There's no movement on the sundial. It travels horizontally until December 25th, the very beginning of December 25th, and then it changes directions and travels northerly. In other words, it's springing up so that on December 25th, over that 24-hour, let me repeat that. On December 25th, it has already traveled a full 1 degree north. It shows 1 degree, in other words, the shadow on the sundial is cast a full 1 degree on December 25th, all right? The very beginning of December 25th. Okay? Clear? So they saw century after century that from December 22nd to December 25th, the days neither increased nor diminished. But on December 25th, annually, that a slight increase in light commenced. So that slight increase in light is reflected or observed or evidenced by that full 1 degree movement, or that 1 degree shadow cast on the sundial. And steadily it returned more and more. So every day the sun would cast another 1 degree shadow, another 1 degree shadow. Okay? So by the time, let's say from the winter solstice to the summer solstice, what is that, y'all? Maybe 270 degrees, I don't know, half a year, 1 degree per day. All right? So it continues. But on December 25th, annually, that a slight increase of light commenced, and steadily it returned more and more, rising higher and higher daily. So the sun is springing northward. It's ascending. It's ascending northward. It's springing all the way till we get to what? Springtime. And it continues to ascend all the way until the summer solstice, June 21, June 22. And then it goes horizontally until June 25th. And then it begins to fall southward. Okay, so this is where we get the fall. The autumn is the fall. And then once it goes below the celestial equator, Christ is crucified. The sun crosses, is crucified. The sun crosses the celestial equator in the autumn equinox. All right. So it returns more and more, rising higher and higher, and with it, cold lessens. So as the sun ascends, as it springs northward, it gets warmer, and from warmer it gets hotter. Okay, warmth return, and light and joy. So you're in the joy of spring and summer now, and fall. All nature became released from what seemed like death. All nature became released from what seemed death and grief, and rejoiced on every side as the new year begins. And he's quoting Psalms, I think. I forgot what the L is, y'all. I'm going to look it up. I meant to. What is? I don't remember. Let me show it. I got to review my Roman numerals. I'm almost, it feels like 50. So is that, yeah, y'all, can y'all see it? See the verse? Okay, so Psalms, the citation, the scripture is Psalms LXV. I think that's 65, but I don't remember. I'm not sure. Verse 11, 12, and 13. Here's how it reads. Quote, "Thou crownest the year with thy goodness. Well, the crown of the year is what? The harvest, right? Thou crownest thy year with thy goodness, and thy paths drop fatness. They drop upon the pastures of the wilderness, and the little hills rejoice on every side. The pastures are clothed with flocks. Flocks, y'all, are sheep. The pastures are clothed with sheep. The valleys are covered with corn. Corn harvest in August. They shout for joy. They also sing. End quote. And then we see in brackets, this alludes to the sign of Aries. So now the reason why he says it alludes to the sign of Aries is because it reads here, the pastures are clothed with flocks. So flocks are sheep. So it's alluding to Aries. Okay? I wish he would have given more detail, because he says here, thou crownest the year with thy goodness. So, is the goodness a day that's dominated by sunlight? Or in other words, those days of the year that the days are longer than the nights? See, the only way to know this is to go and look at the etymological meaning of the words and then study the grammar rules. Okay? And then we can make a determination, like, for example, crown it. What does that mean in the ancient Ibaryath? They rendered it in English as crown it. Year, goodness. Right? So this is, remember, in the first, in the introductory class, number 1, in the introductory class of this course, I mentioned that we're at the author's mercy. Well, not only the author's mercy, but whoever translated this Bible. Because me personally, I would need to go back and get the etymological meaning of these words. Of course, also the context of the whole chapter. And then look at the grammar rules. Okay? Because crowneth the year with goodness, well, that might be the harvest because it's a crown. That might be, the crown might also be what? The Christ, the summer solstice. And thy paths drop in fatness, thy drop in pasture in the wilderness. So the pastures, now I do agree that because you see flocks here, that is referencing Aries. But it says here, the valleys are covered with corn. Now that doesn't mean it's the corn harvest. Okay, you can see that, because remember, from spring, the ongoing generation sprouts up from the soil, right? Y'all remember that? And from spring until summer, the plants, the vegetation are maturing. So that's not necessarily a reference to the harvest. Okay? So I would have to agree with him that this is Aries. This is Aries. Okay? This is indeed Aries. Thy crowneth the year with goodness. Okay? So he may be talking about the harvest there. But there's no way to know unless we look in the ancient Ibaryath and figure out. But even though, so let's say when I do the Book of the Law, if I get support to do it, I'll be able to show you exactly what this verse means. Right now, I cannot. But in the Book of the Law, when we have these type of astrological inferences, it's very easy for me to go and look in the ancient Ibaryath and clarify, and then also to show you and to explain it, right? So one more paragraph and then I'm gonna wrap this up. Let me see how much battery life do I have. Okay, I'm good. So last paragraph. The ancients at first thought that this new light was a new sun, right? Remember I met December 21st, 22nd? The old sun died, a new one was born. That's one way of looking at it. The other way is that the old sun died, now it's resurrected. Okay? And that the old sun had died and celebrated this birth with gifts and great rejoicings. This is Christmas, this is Saturnalia. This is the birth of Christ. Pushed back from initially June 6th. No, not June, I'm sorry, January 6th. Okay? And welcome its appearance as the Savior of the world. And here we have all of the solar deities. They are referenced or called the Savior of the world, right? Even Serapis, Osiris and Apis, the compounded deity that the Ptolemy false pharaohs, fake pharaohs were deified as. Okay. Saviors. Bishops, the followers were called what? Bishops of Christ, and the same story around the Christian Christ, the same story with the followers of Serapis. The bishops of Serapis, the bishops of Christ, you see the same thing in Christianity. The bishops, right? But the priests soon found that what was apparently a new birth was an annual revolution. So it wasn't a new sun being born. Y'all realize how crazy that sounds? That the sun in the sky would die and be reborn. I'm sorry, would die, and then a whole new sun would be made. Who would think, whose level of intellect was so low that they would think such crazy things? Such things that are obviously incorrect. Common sense tell you that it's the same old sun, right? It's the same sun. But we know who came out of the caves. We know who our ancient ancestors educated. We know who they are. So they're not telling our story, they're telling their story. And that's my point. They're telling their story. And faking like it's our story. Everybody see that? They underwent the process of evolution, not us. Let's continue. But because of its potency in governing the uneducated. Y'all hear that? I want to read this in a full sentence. I want to read the whole sentence together. But the priests soon found that what was apparently a new birth was an annual revolution. But because of its potency in governing the uneducated, because of its effectiveness in controlling ignorant masses of Neanderthals, because of its effectiveness in governing the ignorant masses of Neanderthals, that's the priest, kept up these ceremonies. You know, when they party, Saturnalia, later became Christmas, which are still extant to this day, Saturnalia and Christmas. So it's telling you right there. I mean, I think it's clear as day that Christmas, Saturnalia, religion, these ceremonies are for control purposes. And that the priestcraft, and those who are educated in nature, they knows that these ceremonies that worship these external gods, they know that it is fake and it's done for control over the masses, okay? So who is it for? The ignorant masses of Neanderthals. Because they were the ones who religion was created for. They were the ones who were living in the woods and in caves, right? That's where it comes from, cavemen. I'm not making it up. That's why they're cavemen. You see them with the wooden sticks, right? Y'all read, what was the book called? What's that book called from was it 70s or 80s? The Iceman. Y'all remember that? What was the name of that book? But y'all know what I'm talking about. They admit to it. So if you are a hybrid, don't be offended by what I'm saying. Because if you know anything, you know what I'm saying is true. The Neanderthal, the Paleolithic caveman. There's no history of autochthonous Moors ever living in caves or being ignis. In fact, the archaeological evidence shows that, boom, all of these megalithic structures, the astrology, all of this, it just, boom. There was no gradual step up. There was no gradual step up in terms of the complexity of our structures that we built. No, it's just, boom, high-level science and engineering demonstrated. All right. It continues. During this time, they had asserted that the moon affected the tides and weather also. That these two, the sun and the moon, returning to certain positions in the heavens, produced curious and like effects. When coincident configurations took place which were carefully noted, and the Escheat sun became to them the source of light, the giver of all good, the grand central orb, so everything revolves around the sun, the living flame, the quote unquote, the light of the world. Yes, Jesus Christ is the light of the world. And as everything sprang into life beneath his reviving rays, the Father of all, and that's my point, the Father of all, the S-U-N Son, the Father of all, the Ab original man, the Abraham, Abraham. We're going to get into that in the next class, y'all. My battery is about to go out. Islam to all the Moors and Shalom. I hope y'all enjoyed this. Hope you learned something. If I was too repetitive, I can't take it back, but I can improve. Y'all just let me know. Give me feedback, and I will incorporate the feedback as best I can. Thanks, everybody, for buying my books. Y'all go out and buy my books. Subscribe to my classes. I need the finance to get better technology, better equipment, put on better classes, right? And also make me feel good, right? To show that y'all appreciate my work, appreciate my skill set in teaching, right? And I will use whatever finance you guys send in. Put a note if you want it to be used for something, and I'll use it for that. All right? But show some love, Click on those. Click on the 101 Ancient Ibaryath course. Click on 506, the Curses course. You can come to that for free. Make sure you read the instructions. You can come for free, but it's not a free class. Okay, you can come for free. I've let people come 3 months, and they didn't pay. If you want to learn, come and learn, right? But if you know you want to enroll and you can afford it, enroll, and then you can do the tuition. It's not that much at all. So y'all buy my books. Links are in the description area of the video. Islam to all the Moors, and Shalawama.